Walter Delgado grew up in El Salvador. When he was still very young, his mother moved to the United States in order to earn money for their family. So Walter lived with his grandparents. Walter said, one day, my mom called and said, "Do you want to come to the United States?" And obviously, I was 11 years old and I kept hearing how good things were in the United States. So excitedly, I said, "Yes. When do I leave?" The first part of the trip, Walter and his grandfather traveled by bus. It was when they got to Mexico City, that's when things got difficult. They were put into a warehouse. There were 200 to 300 people lodged in one warehouse. After several days, finally somebody announced, "Okay, it's time. We will be walking through the desert. Because it's uncrossable during the day, we have to travel at night." That is when it hit Walter. He was with his grandfather. His grandfather was old and he was only 11 years old. Walter knew this was going to be really, really tough. They started walking. Walter remembers that he was wearing the worst possible shoes that you could choose to walk in the desert in. They were uncomfortable, the terrain was difficult, it was dark, and the temperatures were cold. Really, really cold. They came from Central America, where the weather was tropical, so nobody was prepared. The whole time, they were all freezing cold. While they were walking, Walter could hear others crying. People were groaning. Many people were dropping off. Late into the night, Walter met Modesto. For the most part, Modesto was quiet. Modesto was slim, probably 5'10" or so. They exchanged some light small talk about people that they both knew back home. Then after 6 hours of walking, Walter's feet started giving out. He was tired and didn't want to go on. Of course, his grandfather couldn't help. He was doing all he could to keep himself going. Modesto kept pulling Walter up, telling him, "We're almost there, just a little further," over and over. He picked Walter back up, saying, "You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it. We're almost there." Of course, so many people don't. Lots of people get left behind. Walter feared that one of those people would be him. His feet were swollen beyond recognition at this point. There was no way that he could go on. Modesto tugged on him. Walter was immovable. That is when Modesto reached down, picked up Walter, and slung him on his back. Walter said, "I must have been at least 90 pounds, probably 100 pounds. He carried me on his back for 2 to 3 hours. I'm not exaggerating." "And just imagine," said Walter, "like everyone, he must have been hurting and tired himself the whole time. It just blows my mind," he said. Modesto carried Walter all the way to their destination. Both Walter and his grandfather made it. Walter became a U.S. citizen. He went to college and has a good career. He lives comfortably in Houston, Texas, and now has a family of his own. And for all of it, he credits Modesto. "Everything that I have now, everything that I've accomplished," says Walter, "it takes me back to that moment. Thank God. Thanks to Modesto. The 3 to 4 hours he carried me on his back, all this is possible," he said. It's a beautiful story, right? Here's what this story reminds me of. Often we are so consumed with our own pain, with our own problems, our own challenges, that we don't pay attention to the people right around us who are struggling. Sure, your pain is real, but maybe it's nothing compared to somebody next to you. It reminds me to not be so consumed by my own problems and to consider the state of affairs and well-being of others. Maybe somebody needs to have their load lightened just a bit, maybe for just a bit. And maybe in doing so, it gives me a renewed sense of purpose and determination. And I'm sure it did for Modesto, knowing that he was helping Walter and his concerned grandfather. We are all an interdependent tribe species, after all. The more that we help each other, the more we thrive as a tribe. So, my Darren Daily community, I ask you to consider who around you might be hurting. Who around you might need some assistance, carrying the burden of some of their temporary pain or responsibility. Maybe offer to lighten their load for an hour or few. When we help each other, we are all better for it. And please, share this story widely with others. Maybe it will inspire someone else to consider and care more for somebody else around them. Think of the positive ripple effect that we all could affect starting right here, right now. And tell us, who do you have in mind to help today? Share that with us in the comments below. Hey, quick reminder. We publish previous episodes of Darren Daily on our podcast, Darren Daily On Demand. This is so that you can keep your mind fueled throughout your day and weekends. And the namesake says you can do it on the go. I listen to every episode myself while on my walks, working out, and traveling. It's perfect for net time, no extra time, when your body is moving, but your mind is free. You can find Darren Daily on demand on most podcast platforms, and we'll link some below. Be sure that you're subscribed when you get there.